And let me first start sharing my screen. I hope you are able to see the mural.
Yes.
Great. Welcome once again to the tryScrum webinar series 16. We are with Arun Vignesh today, where he is going to walk through us on some new insights about outcomes over outputs. So I would extend my thanks to all the tryScrum crew members who are behind working for this webinar to happen. So before we get into the webinar, I would like to quickly give some technical instructions for some of us who may be new to Zoom. You have a panel available when you log into the Zoom. You have an option to Q&A. That is where you can put your questions so that we will give enough time to answer those questions in the end of the conversation. And you can always send a chat, but we would prefer the questions should come in the Q&A so that we don't lose the questions. If the instructions are clear on the technical side, I'm just moving to the next mural. This is about tryScrum. tryScrum was founded by Venkatesh Rajamani, who is a PhD with scrum.org, CEC and CTC with Scrum Alliance. It was founded in 2018 with a mission to humanize organizations, and it's a management consulting firm. So they try to achieve the mission with various ways of trainings, consulting, coaching. And if you see here, it's a PTN with scrum.org. It's ICAGL authorized member organization, and it's also associated with Management 3.0 and Scrum Alliance. So there are various programs that tryScrum runs through these alliances. If you are more interested on this, you can visit www.tryscrum.com. And now coming to the tryScrum studios. So these studios that we see here, Scrum Master Studio, Product Owner Studio, and Agile Leadership Studio, these are all not for profit studios with a mission to give the right information or avenues for anyone who is new in these journeys, be it a Scrum Master or a product owner or a leader who is trying to move towards being a more of a agile leader. And we are also happy to say that tryScrum has been nominated, studios have been nominated in the top 3 for at the World Agility Forum 2020. So this was all possible by the support you guys gave us and trust you had on us from the last 3 years. So I'm just moving quickly to speaker. Welcome once again, Arun. Arun is with tryScrum. He is also CTC with Scrum Alliance. He is an IC Agile authorized instructor. He's also ORSC trained, and he's also an SPC from Scaled Agile. Arun brings in good experience of 7 years in Agile transformation, where he has helped 4 organizations move towards Agile ways of working. And he worked with organizations like McKinsey, Financial Express, Commonwealth Bank Australia, and HCL. If you are more interested to connect with Arun, you can use the QR code to connect with Arun LinkedIn profile. And currently, Arun runs trainings as well through tryScrum as an IC Agile instructor. So I would not take much time, Arun, and thank you once again for coming up for this webinar as a speaker. It's
Yes.
over to you, Arun.
Thank you, Ankit. Thanks for the kind notice or the thoughts that you have given. Yeah, it is weird. I've been moderating webinars. Now I'm the speaker. So, webinar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for the people who have joined on a Thursday evening. I hope it will be valuable. So let me share my screen, Ankit.
Yes.
Stop. I hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes. Arun.
Okay, welcome again, everyone. Today's topic is outcomes over output, the ways to create human-centered goals. We're going to see how are we going to create goals with humans as the center point? Right, that's the topic here. So I'm this I've taken from the book Outcomes Over Output by Josh Seaton. So entire credit goes to him. So I just read this book in 2020, early 2020. This book was published in 2019 December, if I'm not wrong. So I came across this book and I read this and I got inspired by this and I've implemented this one of my assignment and I got good amount of results. Right. So I thought of sharing my experience to the community. That's how this webinar is planned. Now I start off with this responsibility process. Um, why this? To start with, this is more a monologue. As you know, webinars are more monologues and participants would be muted, which I very much hated. But I try to take responsibility and try to see how I can engage with you guys, even if it is a webinar. So let me see if I'm in any of this shame, if I'm shaming myself by trying different things, or I'm taking a responsibility to make it better. That's probably we know it in an hour. Okay, to start with, let's start with an intro. The thing that you got to do is take your mobile, scan it, and you should be able to log into a menti.com. Okay, either you can log in just by scanning it, or other means is like hit menti.com and then use the code 445049. I'll wait for the results. I hope you're all able to go and hit menti.com and use the code 445049 to join. If you have any concerns, you can raise the hand. Venkat would be able to notice it. Venkat, just check if anyone are raising the hand if they're unable to join. The prompt is, what outcome are you expecting from today's webinar? Okay, I see humanitarian goals. Human-centric outcome, human-centric output, okay, new awareness, outcomes. I'll just give it 30 seconds. Probably I'll start some timer if needed. The 30-second timer, new awareness, yes. The voting closes in 30 seconds. Yes. So as you all are having some expectations, we are going to touch something on human-centric outcomes and humanitarian goals. I'm not sure if that would be something called human-centric output, but you're going to see it, right? So that's on the start. That's a quick level of introduction to connect with you guys. To start with, now I'm going to move on. Why does outcome definition matter now? Right? That's a $1 million question. So we are talking about outcomes, but why does that matter now? If I have to put that in a single word, if this jargon has been used in every forum that you go in the current symposiums or anywhere you go. This is being used widely. We call it as VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. The world is moving. The world is VUCA. It's getting much more volatile as ever before, much more ambiguous ever before, much more complex ever before. To me, if I have to put that, I call it as more a complex world with adaptive nature. When I say complex adaptive, there are a lot. When I say complex, it is more of unknowns, lot of unknowns in the current world. You never know what is valuable. If you're building a product at this point in time, you may find it at this point in time as valuable, but it is being adaptive as well. Over time, the technology changes. It changes just like this, and then what is valuable yesterday will become less valuable today. So that's how the nature of the world is currently. So that's why I call it as a complex adaptive thing. Even though there are a lot of unknowns, it has been constantly emerging. So that's why I call it as a complex adaptive thing. In this complex adaptive world, what is more important is that we are not able to identify the best value that one can deliver, where a product can deliver, a service can deliver. So that's why we see this as the most important thing at this point in time, to identify what is the outcome that we are trying to serve it to the end users. That's why I feel outcome definition is very much important at this point in time. Just to go with, I've taken this example or the report from Standis Group. This says, whatever software features that have been in the market, the usage is like 50% of the features are hardly ever used. If someone is hearing it for the first time, yes, this has been researched by Standish Group, and they've revealed it. There has been conspiracy around this data as well. The reason being, when I say conspiracy, it's not about authenticity, it is about the credibility of the data. The research has been done around 2,000 companies is what the standard says, but the data is not certain. But it's a very good indicator. If you take it, say LinkedIn as an example, it has so many features, but the features that are visible to us and that we use are post, make connections, chat with people. You can scan and connect with people. And there is something called, if you're in a conference, there is something called connections at the rightmost corner. You can, through Wi-Fi, you can see how many people are there. These are the predominantly used features, and then read articles, blogs, and stuff like that. You can post blogs as well. These are the most widely used. There are hardly ever used features are like, there is something called that you can link your Twitter account to the LinkedIn to a Twitter account when you post LinkedIn. These are probably infrequently used. And there are something like the data that you can collect in what do you call the number of people visiting your profiles. These are infrequently used. When you go to premium, it has much more advanced features. So that's a classic example of how a famous platform like LinkedIn has features that has infrequently used as well. Hardly ever used features. If you go to settings and then go through most of the things, you would wonder, okay, does LinkedIn have so many features for security, so many features for whatnot? I'm also pretty much like you guys. I don't use much of features. I use very few features. So I'm just relating how as a software product has so many features that are built, which is hardly ever used or infrequently used. Right. The reason I say this is we are driven by features. We talk about only features when we launch a product. When I say features, we mistake these features for getting done. Right. When I say done, most people consider, okay, releasing a feature, we are done. Is it really done? We have to see whether the features are being used by the end users or the customers, and it is generating value to the customers, and it's also driving some results back to us. It has to be an end loop cycle, so that's when we should say done. But most commonly used, whenever we release something, deploy to production, we are done. That's how the industry is being currently. If you're not in that stage, then you're in good space, right? That's why we feel the outcomes definition is very much important now. Okay, now with that said, how do we define outcomes? I'm going to take Josh Seden's help. As I said, he has described it as an outcome is a change in behavior or a change in human behavior that creates value. Earlier in his book, he has mentioned it as an outcome is a change in human behavior that drives business results. That's how his initial version of the book has been published. When he thought of, then when feedbacks and reviews were sent to him, how do you say that just business results? That's when he just rephrased it. Still, it holds intact. He just rephrased it to a generic term of creating value. If I have to put, if I'm a product company and if I have to put this sentence there, right, and from an end user perspective, from a human behavior perspective, an outcome is a change in customer behavior that creates business results. Right? Why are we having this human behavior or a customer behavior here? The point here I'm trying to make is the human behaviors are something that is observable and measurable. That's why we are trying to speak in that term, human behavior, and we are going to see. And the statement also says change in human behavior, which means that the customer may be doing something currently. You got to see how you can change that behavior of the customer to yield business results. It is not just human behavior. You got to change the way that they are currently working on to yield some business results to us, or to create value to the company or to the end users as well. You can, this is a pretty generic framework, or you could call it a pretty generic term. You can put it like human behavior, whatever your end user is, put that person as the human behavior there, human there. And then what is, if you're, whatever your business results is, if you want to, say suppose if you're a team of people who are serving in your organization on what do you call stability of an application, right? We call it as your support team. We can put it like an outcome is a change in where the customer behavior is like the people who are using it, right? So which is like end user. That creates business value here is like number of the business value here. I say this is the number of tickets that they're logging should count, the count should go less, which means that the outcome that I'm trying to for a support team is that they should see a drastic number of reduction in the customer tickets that are getting raised. It can be that way also. You can term it this more generic. You can term it however you want for your purpose, but the crux is that have the end user as the human behavior there. That's the crux. And why is it important? This gives the focus, the much needed focus on the customer. We talked about the world being changing so fast around and the technology being changed. We don't know what is valuable tomorrow or day after. So at this point in time, what is valuable? Think from a customer point of view. Do not go too far distance and then think from that angle. If it's not still understandable, we are going to see with some examples, which will help us get better. Okay. I hope you're all aware of this project thing. Whenever you create something project, you give some input and you create some output, right? So the project logic cycle, we call it as. You give some inputs, then that creates some output, which is like, let's take an example of a team doing Scrum, right? Think like the input is like the people that are working on it, the coding people, and they create some output. Output is like your increment, right? So in Scrum, if you've heard about an artifact, increment is one of the artifacts that we say here. The increment is nothing but an output. When does it become valuable? Only when it changes some human behavior and it is driving the business results. That's when it is going to have some meaningful impact. Right? That is what we call it as an outcome. Right? So the increment that you're doing it, only when it becomes valuable, that's when it becomes an outcome. Right? Hopefully, everyone will be of the hope that we create the outputs that are becoming valuable. Right? Uh, and the impact is like the sum of variables, sum of all the variables that are generating the outcomes constitute to give some business results. That's what we call it as an impact. If I relate a layman example, right? Um, think of a product that you're delivering to improve a customer service, right? So the product is the output. The outcome is nothing but how the product is being used by the customer. Are the customers using it well enough? Are they not? That's how, if it's a new product and if they're using it, that's a new change in behavior. That's the outcome. The impact is like the business results, so and so X number of revenue being generated to the organization, just in a very high level. Think of that way. I hope this is making sense. If not, we're going to go into a very much more layman example now. So now again, I'm going to give you guys a case kind of a thing. I'm going to give it a bit of history to it as well. A hypothetical case, this one. Let's think of you guys are working for a non-profit organization, and this non-profit organization is funding a village to get their life better, right? To improve the standard of the living. And this non-profit organization has observed that the people of that village are walking several kilometers daily to fetch water from a river. They don't have any modernized plumbing to their village. They have to walk at least a certain number of kilometers to go and fetch water. They've observed this. Now the foundation or the non-profit organization decides that if we build a well in that particular village or the center of the village, then the people can go and fetch water by not walking so far, and they can fetch water nearby, which will help them save some time, which they'll be using for much more better purposes, and that will in turn help them create the impact, which is like a very good standard of living. So this is the case that you have here. If you have any questions, you can very well ask. From whatever I've explained, what is the thing that from the case, what is that you think the output is here? What is that the outcome is here? What is the impact here? You can just put with a prefix saying that I am or something like that for what is the impact in this case, whatever I explained, and what is the outcome from that. Just from this definition, just put what is the outcome that is there and what is the output. Venkat, I would need your help just to see the responses from the chat.
Sure.
Is that a question? If you have, I'll try to repeat if anyone needs and understanding the project initiative is this. We are trying to build a well at the center of the village for the village people to go and fetch water without walking a long distance, which in turn the foundation, the organization, the non-profit organization believes that, which in turn will help them get more time for them to spend that time for in a better way, which will help them improving their standard of living or way of living. Right? This is the problem statement. I just want you guys to identify in this problem statement, what is the output, what is the outcome, what is the impact?
You can put your comments in the chat.
Yep.
Arun, you're navigating to all the screens. We could see your Slack channels as well.
Okay. My bad. I'm sorry. Do we have any chats or is it not?
No comments until now.
Okay. Okay, well as an output. Yes. Okay. Any other thoughts? What is the output here? Maybe let's go one by one. What is the output here in the case that I've generated? Effective time utilization as an impact. Okay. Any other thoughts? What is the outcome? I have one example for an output. That's good thinking. Yes. Well as an output that's been put here. Impact. Yes. What is the outcome? Better living. Okay. That's a good guess. Maybe I'm just moving on with the interest of time. Outcome is happiness. Okay. Outcome as living. Outcome as better living. Outcome is happiness. Let me put this, right? We talked about outcome as a change in human behavior. What is the change in human behavior here? Yeah. Easy access to water. That's an outcome. How just related, these are good examples and good try. I'm just going to reveal it, right? So how again, this is like an example for you guys to relate it. In this project, whatever I've explained, the output is well, which is like constructing a well. Okay. Now the outcome is, as I said, related to humans' change in behavior, right? So earlier they were walking several kilometers to go and fetch water. Now they would have less need to transport water. So they will not go that far a distance. The change in behavior is that rather going to a river, they're going to go to a well. That's what we're hypothesizing, right? The impact that this foundation wants to give this is improvements to quality of life. Now, what this gives is, right, an output when it is, if hopefully, if that well is being used, constructed, or a well is being used well, used frequently to take water, then their whatever the foundations, the non-profit organizations initiative is a success. They feel that rather than people moving moving to a river, they're going to come and fetch water here, which the non-profit organization may feel that They're validating that people have changed their behavior to come here. Now next is impact. Is that change in behavior impacting their improvements to quality of life? That's what we got to connect as well. So that's where this outcome is going to play a vital role in acting as a glue to talk about output or connecting the output and the impact. Generally, if I'm just taking an example in a product organization, any organizations, how the organizations, the executives come up with is like they give directions to the organization, like we want to increase our revenue, we want to decrease our costs. They'll be talking always on a very high level term, right? Else the product managers or whatever they do, they talk about a lot of activities. You got to do this app, this feature, that feature. You talk about more on the internal integrities of the work that has to be done, right? The missing piece is that we miss the outcome perspective or the customer angle perspective to bring out some to make that whatever we are doing effective. So that's how this is going to be. If this is a case, if here in this case the trap is that if you'd have thought, most of them thought about well as an output, or if you believe that well is the only output, then that's where the trap is we are going to fall in, as always. Reason is, straight away we believe that this is going to give away an improvement to quality of life, right? How do we validate it? So or how do we try to see the outcomes that we are defining is the right ones? So we have 3 magic questions here. Let's use this magic questions now, and let's see how the case that I've put up here is still intact, right? These are the 3 magic questions I'm going to open you guys. These 3 magic questions are going to help you guys to define better outcomes. The first magic question is that what are the behaviors that drives impact? Now let's put that here. What are the behaviors that drives impact? The behavior here we said is less need to transport water. Is that directly impacting the improvements to quality of life? Maybe they could get good hygiene of water, but we have to measure it, right? That's one. So for that, we got to build an expensive well, right? So that's how can we enable to do more of those behaviors? Is that less time to travel is the outcome that we have defined here. For that, the activity that we have taken up here is a well, which is like which is an expensive one. How do we know that we are right? Only when people go and visit the well and then fetch water, that's when we are going to know we are doing it right. If you have to put a why to this, why do we need to what do you call when you put a why to the outcome, saying that okay, less time to travel, okay, why would that help in impacting better living? There could be something like they may have more time. Okay, why would that help? If you ask that question again, just put a simple why to everything that every answer that you're putting. Why would a leisure time would help them get a better living? They may go and do some better activities, go to work. Okay, why would going to work would help them? Put a why to see how is the change in behavior is going to impact it, right? So that will help you change the activities that you're going to do. So if the organization is believing that a well is going to give them this result, they can just bring a truck of lorry with water, and then they can just give water to see if they are if the customers, if the end users are trying to fetch water from the container of lorry, or are they still moving to longer distance to get fetch the water. So we still don't know. So what the point I'm trying to put up here is that try to build a small experiment or try to validate your experiment by doing less of outputs, which means that by doing small amount of activity, try and validate your outcome. So that's how do we know that we are doing right? That the measure that we are doing it, okay, if people are coming and fetching water from the lorry, the container of lorry container with water, then obviously we are sure that they will try and fetch water from the well. So that's how we are trying to relate a customer behavior here, and then try to see how it is going to get impacting the uh, benefits that we intend to deliver. So these are three magic questions. I'm going to relate it with one of a case that I personally experienced. We five of our friends started a food franchise business, and in that we had what you call people calling our phones and ordering for a takeaway delivery. This is more in the rural areas, not in a big cities or stuff like that, right? We thought our background being engineers, we thought Swiggy, we use it in metropolitan cities. Why not build a certain app like that in our rural areas so that people can order through the phone in their apps, and we can increase our revenue. So our initial motive was to increase revenues by doing some more takeaway business. For that, we thought the medium that we thought is we should build an app. We built an app for 6 months, and we delivered to the end users. Still, we were getting calls to place the order. Rather, the usage was very less with apps. We built very fancy UI. We built everything possible. We did it in the rural areas, but that didn't go well. The reason is now it was done 3 years back. Had I known this outcome definition, we would have made it a different thing. That time, the rural areas people, they felt the need to they didn't had proper internet to just download apps and use the apps, and also the usage was less. We didn't account the customer behavior here. We just thought about an output. We just thought about an impact. We didn't have the glue to connect. Had it been now, we would have tested it rather than building a lavish app. We could have just rolled out a web link with just Google form, taking an order. What is the order that you want? They can just fill it with their mobile numbers. There could be a number of ways we could have thought about it. If had we thought about the outcomes or the change in behavior, what do we want to do to test, to validate the behavior, we could have easily done a small web link and then moved on, but we didn't do that. That's a learning from us. After coming across this book, I really felt that if I'd have, what have we done? We didn't account the customer behavior here. So instead of focusing on what you intend to make, which is like the app that we built in my case, or the well that we building in this example, you're setting a focus on people that you're trying to serve. You're shifting the focus there and trying to validate the customer upfront to see whether the problem that we're trying to solve is the customer responding to it. So what are the behaviors that drive impact? Is that behavior is driving towards impact? People changing their behavior to use a different medium, is that helping us to drive business results? If you're thinking in that line, it is a huge step to take to make it customer centric. Next question: how do we enable people to do more of these behaviors? This is the second magic question, right? So if we believe that if the people are moving towards the change in behavior, then how are we going to help them do it more often? In our classic case, if we would have found that by rolling out just a web link through a Google form and then found out people are using that forms to fill in, then probably to do it, to enhance that behavior more, we could have gone on to the apps. In our case, we found that if people are not using that web link, then that's where we can identify, we got to pivot that idea and move on to a different approach or whatnot. We could have averted a risk of losing some money by going and directly giving something, a feature or an app with so many features to the end users without even thinking of using it, right? Just this question, how are you going to help, how it's going to help is that it's just going to shift your focus, orients your planning process away from features towards a customer change. So this will still, you're going to build features, yes, but the features will be more customer centric, and it is not like any other features in the industry which has in your someone had posted in the chat so many features in the mobile phones. We don't use it. If you're just putting the customer's point of view and then thinking of whether this feature will be used by the customers and how are they going to use it, that's when you're moving in the right direction, and that is what the outcomes is going to give it to you. Right. The next question is, how do we know that we are right? Exactly. That's what we said. We are measuring the outcome or the customer behavior. If the customer is not responding to the service that we are delivering, right? In my case, it was an app. Then I got to pivot. I should have, rather than going for a lavish app, as I said, I could have gone for a smaller form. That's an experiment. I would have tried to see the outcomes. If the customer is changing it, I would have learned it. Then I would have built it. Now, in my case, we learned it hard way. We built the app. We measured outcomes. The outcomes was not, we were not getting the results. That's a hard learning, right? We have spent money. We cannot take it back. This is a small example. Very, what do you call, with less amount of money probably, which is okay at that point in time. Think of a larger organization building a very huge product, investing so much of money without considering customers' perspective. Think of the loss, what they're gonna bear. So these are the 3 magic questions that Josh Eden has given to us. Use it. It will be of good help, and I've recently used it in one of my assignments, and it really, at least it's moved. I wouldn't say it was a huge success, but at least the shift in discussion about, are we building the right thing? Are we building something that is customer going to use? That sense was prevailing in the discussions throughout. Right. So this outcome-based thinking, you can very well use it to OKRs as well. I don't know if people have used OKRs. OKRs is again a tool to connect your strategy to measurable one as well. Objectives, it is still here. How are we relating it? In the OKRs angle, the objectives is your impacts that you're trying to put here. The key results are the outcomes. So the key results, try to match the customer behavior in the key results, and then you could measure it, and you're on the right path to delivering the customer-centric value. If I have to give an example, think of you're building a product, right? So, and launching a new product in an app store. The key result could be, the objectives could be, you got to have X number of revenue. That's the objective, high level objective. Yes, the key result is, okay, how many registrations, how many people are downloading my app? That's a key result. The people are downloading, that's a change in behavior that we are associating here. And how many people are retaining, how many customers are coming frequently? That's a change in behavior. You've got to identify those behaviors and measure it. That's one of the examples that I can quote here. To summarize, generally leaders and business people, they come up with impacts like very high level statement. We want X number of revenue or reducing costs, which is very high level, and you cannot, and the team level at the bottom, layman cannot understand. And at times, or they have been directed directly to go and do some activities like build an app. I want to build an app, like how I did. Let's build an app. So that is also way to go getting into the deeper. We are not sure whether we are generating the value. So try to have a middle stand, take a step back and see what is the outcome that we're trying to see. what is the change in behavior that we are trying to put in here in the human behavior that is going to drive us to results. I hope you had at least a fair understanding of what an outcome is and how we are going to put the human in the center of the whatever your thinking is, and then trying to deliver value. Yeah, this is pretty much a summary of how whatever new concept I learn, I put this everywhere. This is adult learning. I myself, I'm in the conscious competence. I'm consciously trying to use this concept of outcomes over output in my practice. If you are someone who is hearing it for the first time, it may be hard to digest or take it from here, but just try. Once you try, you move from unconscious to conscious. Yeah, that's pretty much what I had today to talk about. And over to you, Venkat. If people have any questions, we can take the questions. I hope we have 10 more minutes to take questions.
Thanks, Arun. It was a very good topic that you shared with us. And also thanks for bringing some of the real examples that you brought in with respect to what where you felt were not able to look at the outcomes with building in a Google form instead of an app. Yeah. If you have any questions, please feel free to add it in the Q&A. So I believe this talk helps us to move away from being a feature factory to more of an outcome driven product organizations. If you are building a product, so we don't see any response coming in. Hopefully the activities would have helped people to connect with the concepts that you shared with the well example.
Should I take that as everything is understood or zero understood?
No, I was able to clearly understand the concepts because of the activity that you really helped us to connect with what is output, what is an outcome, and what is an impact there. So if there are no further questions, then let me start sharing my screen. And once again, thank you, Arun. I would like to share my screen here. Thanks, Arun, and thank you all for joining this webinar on a Thursday work evening. Feel free to share your feedback, if anything, for us to do it differently. And we also would like to bring to your attention that the next webinar is from Roman Wichler. It's on Friday, 20th of November. And you can also do RSVP to join the webinar by going to www.tryScrum.com/webcast. See you all.
Thank you, Venkat.
Thank you. Thanks, Arun. Thank you.